UFC Fight Night Fight Island 4, Holm versus Aldana, takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the card telling you guys the fighters to watch out for that you need to know about before the card starts. And this week I've even started before the UFC puts out their own videos on fighters you should know, so I'm going to beat them to it. These are the guys to watch out for on the card this weekend, but I'm going to start off with a little bit of a curveball, and you might not see this one coming. Carlos Condit is a guy that I want you guys to watch out for this weekend, because recently in the media, don't know if you guys saw the headline, he seems interested in a Nick Diaz rematch, and funnily enough, I don't think that's that far-fetched. In my opinion, I was looking at the winner of Robbie Lawler versus Mike Perry to take on Nick Diaz in a potential comeback fight, maybe even Tyron Woodley, who knows where he's at in his career right now. He's broken his rib, of course, as well, but still, I need to mention, Carlos Condit is still a big name in the sport. He's fighting this weekend against Court McGee on the prelims. On the prelims, for some bizarre reason, Daquan Townsend, 3-fight losing streak, is on the main card, but Carlos Condit, legend, arguably beat Robbie Lawler in a title fight, is on the prelims. It doesn't make any sense. So if you didn't know, now you know, to steal a line from Dana White. Pay attention to Carlos Condit, but let's get into the real young prospects that we're going to be watching out for, because Carlos Condit, in my opinion, if he wins this one, he's just another big name to have around at welterweight that I don't mind having. He can fight the winner of Cerrone Price rematch. He can fight Nick Diaz, as I mentioned before. He can even fight the winner of Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler himself. There's a ton of good matchups. Pay attention to him. But moving on to the prospects on the card, this is what we're here for. These are the guys that we're really paying attention to. We're going to start off with one of the most obvious ones, in my opinion, that you know is going to be on this list. Charles Jourdain. I've spoke about him in other videos as well. I did a prediction video for him versus Andre Fili. I think that was a great matchup. I expected Andre Fili to go out there and just take down Charles Jourdain every round, but Charles Jourdain went out there slamming kicks heavy into his arms, and I like Charles Jourdain's style because he looks like he doesn't care, and that's something that's really powerful in the ring to have. When you're a guy like Charles Jourdain, you know, he doesn't care. He throws kicks. He doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him if they land on the arms. He'll break Doo Ho Choi's arm with a round kick. He doesn't even care anymore. He just threw them over and over and over again against Andre Fili. I like that kind of attitude in a young fighter. A guy who's not afraid to take a bit of damage, and usually guys who are 24 years of age, they're thinking, oh, you know, I've still got a career ahead of me, I don't want to take too much damage, let me make this a little bit easy. He doesn't care. He goes at it. If things get difficult, he doesn't shell up on the ground and look to get submitted and reach their arm out like they're trying to fight the choke and tap anyway or fake go out cold. He's a real fighter. I like his style. He's had a good amateur career as well. I believe he went, what, 8-2 overall as an amateur, which is a good amateur career to have. Not many people have amateur careers. This new generation coming up seems to have a lot more amateur fights than those before them. I like it very much. So he's fought good opponents. He lost to TJ Laramie. That was the first wrestler that came into his career, and then he got taught some lessons. Came back, went on a good win streak against a guy 3-1, 4-2, 9-3. Good fighters, 16-11, not so good, but still. It was a main event. I believe it was for the belt as well, if I'm not mistaken. TKO 47, Jordan versus Lapulus. It was for the belt. It was 5 rounds. He beat him in the 5th round. That's another thing that we need to take note of. Charles Jourdain, okay, not many people get the chance to test out 5-rounders before they get into the UFC. That's a very powerful bit of experience to have, to know that he can go hard, and hard enough to not just go 5 rounds, but hard enough to get to the 5th round and have enough energy to finish it in spectacular fashion. I believe it was a spinning back fist combo or something that he landed on Damian Lapulus, but still moves on, fights Desmond Green in the UFC, upper weight class at lightweight on short notice, loses, gets out grappled. Fair play, Desmond Green is a tough guy, experienced guy, much bigger than you. It was on short notice. I can give him a pass there. Then he comes back and I beat Doo Ho Choi to beat him. I picked Doo Ho Choi to beat him, and I thought it was definitely going to happen. I thought Doo Ho Choi was a savage. This guy just went to war with Cub Swanson. It's funny how a couple of months and a year or two can change your perspective on an entire division, but in my opinion back then, looking at that matchup with Doo Ho Choi and Cub Swanson, I was like, yeah, Doo Ho Choi, he's so young, he went to a close decision with Cub Swanson, and now he's going to be champ. Picked him to beat Charles Jourdain, and I was wrong. Jourdain went out there and looked good against a guy who I think is very, very technical on the feet. I still believe that Doo Ho Choi can come back and do some good work in the UFC, but against a guy like Charles Jourdain, he showed he's ready for this level, and they've given him nothing but tough tests over and over and over again. Desmond Green in his debut upper weight class comes back down to Korean Superboy, okay? He's meant to lose that one. He ends up winning it with a good finish in the 2nd round. Then he fights Andre Fili. You know, like, could you have picked some more difficult guys outside the rankings to take on for your first 2 fights at featherweight? I don't know. But now he's taking on Joshua Kalibau, and I think he's got an actual good example of a guy that's going to make him look quite good. Joshua Kalibau is a talent, don't get me wrong. He's fought good guys in his career. I just feel like his last performance against Jarlin Turner was not the best, but again, took it on short notice. We could be looking at another Charles Jourdain here in Joshua Kalibau. He's had a good career before that loss. He was undefeated, 8-0. I just feel as though he's fought way lesser competition than Charles Jourdain has. He's got way less experience against good competition than Charles Jourdain is, 25-10. He fought a guy who was 8-8 to get into the UFC. That should be all I need to say. I like Joshua Kalibau. I think he's actually pretty good. He looks okay. I just think he's going to be a little bit outgunned and a little bit outpowered and out-ferocitied by Charles Jourdain this weekend. I've got Charles Jourdain winning the fight by TKO. Moving on up the card to another fighter to watch out for. Dusko Todorovic is on the main card of this fight night. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you guys. Dusko Todorovic has been talking about his debut in the UFC for a very long time. I believe it was all the way back, here we go, March of 2020, which 6 months. Wow, this year, man. Fucking hell, I'm going to die soon. March of 2020. That long ago, 6 months ago. Jesus. Apparently he was supposed to fight John Phillips there, got rescheduled a day later. That got cancelled, got rescheduled again. John Phillips is the guy that if you want someone to win their debut, give him John Phillips. You know, it seems to be how it works nowadays. And he was rescheduled to fight John Phillips in July, and he didn't get the fight there. Excuse me for saying July like McGregor for a second, but still, didn't get the fight then. Got rebooked against Daquan Townsend to get his matchup now in October. He's been ready, he's been waiting to go, he's been getting ready to fight, he's been being in peak condition. He's the younger guy, and against a guy in Daquan Townsend who's on a 3-fight losing streak. I know he's dangerous for Dusko Todorovic because anything can happen in MMA, but Daquan Townsend, 3-fight losing streak, been KO'd a couple times, coming down a weight class on short notice against Dusko Todorovic, the savage that Todorovic is. He's not a guy that's fought cans outside the UFC. He's not one of those guys. First fight, fights a guy 0-2 when he's 0-0. I'd actually argue I favour a guy 0-2 over an 0-0 guy, in most cases, if they're pretty even in skill, because at least a guy who's 0-2's got a bit more experience and isn't making his first walk into the cage, then he takes on a guy 3-1. Big jump up compared to, like, the records of Khabib's in the early part of his career, taking on debut guy after debut guy. Then you take on a guy when you're 2-0. What, you're going to take on a guy 3-2, 2-1, 2-3, 2-5? No, he takes on a guy 8-0 in the Serbia regionals, beats him, moves on, fights a guy making their debut, fair play, but it was a cancelled bout, and then he gets another bout cancelled, fights Alexander Popek 8-1 when he's 4-0. Like, he's fighting good guys who have credible records early in his career, which shows that, listen, it must be very hard to get in matchups, okay? And he also beat a guy that you may recognise on his resume, in Mikel Pereira, KO'd him in the first round. You know, Mikel Pereira, that guy. I know Mikel Pereira's evolved his game a little bit after the loss recently in his UFC career. Obviously, he lost to Diego Sanchez, and then before that, he lost to Tristan Connolly. Things had to change about Mikel Pereira, and he looked amazing against Salim Imavov, but still, Dusko Todorovic, before he even got in the UFC, KOing guys like Mikel Pereira, a random crazy guy in the first round that can make things a little bit messy. I think that experience against a wild man in Pereira, if you can figure out him in the first round and KO him stiff, a big guy for welterweight as well, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. Not even a big guy for welterweight, but a guy at middleweight. Daquan Townsend, wild in the first round, comes in there. I think that Dusko Todorovic's going to be able to handle him, get him out of there in the first round, and I think he gets it done. It'll be nice to have a new member into the middleweight family in the UFC, because we always need new contenders at middleweight. Adesanya's recent win against Costa, I mean, we're scrambling for another fight. Is it going to be the winner of Whittaker Cannonier? What if Whittaker wins? We're going to have to try and do a rematch there, and then we'll see what the next guy does. Right now, Edmund Shabazian just fell off a little bit. Gastelum's kind of sliding down a little bit as well. Darren Till failed his attempt against Robert Whittaker to get into the top of the bracket to get a title shot. I just feel as though right now Dusko Todorovic is the man for the job. He'll get it done against Daquan Townsend. I like Daquan Townsend, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak. There are guys who get cut from the UFC for winning, like, in not impressive enough fashion. There are guys who get cut from the UFC for losing one fight and they don't look that good. Like, Daquan Townsend, 0-3 in his last 3 fights. They give him an opportunity. I guess they know why they're giving him another shot in the UFC, because they want to make Dusko Todorovic look really good, although Daquan Townsend is dangerous. Short notice, down a weight class, Don't like it. He's not a small guy either. He's got a long reach, and that could prove some problems, but he hasn't really fought good guys, and when he has fought good guys, he's lost to them. And I think that Dusko Todorovic is going to get him out of there with a first round TKO. Moving on, up the card, or not up the card, down the card to another guy that you need to watch out for. Nassourdine Imavov is another guy on my list, taking on Jordan Williams on this card this weekend on the prelims. Jordan Williams, a Contender Series alumni. Can't wait to see him get in the UFC. Jordan Williams, is another guy I'm going to talk about in this video. Dangerous guy. Dangerous guy. However, in Jordan Williams' fight on the Contender Series, I get that a first round KO means something. I do understand that, but he was losing that fight against Rodriguez. Like, he landed the one shot out of nowhere, but Rodriguez was landing punch after punch after punch after punch on a little bit of a lackluster Rodriguez. However, Jordan Williams is a guy that also went to a split decision loss to Ramazan Kuragomedov, who is an absolute savage right now, moved on to be 8-0 since that fight, absolutely demolishing everyone and has a big amateur career as well against some decent opponents. I feel as though Nassourdine Imavov is going to get the underdog win against Jordan Williams this weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing it happen because Nassourdine Imavov coming off a big win, a better win in my opinion than Jordan Williams' last win, where he lost the entire fight before landing a big KO. And I understand he screamed, "Give me my contract!" afterwards. Geez, I'm still in a bit of American. Afterwards, he screamed, "Give me my contract." Cool. I mean, that makes it a little bit more interesting, I guess. But I don't think you should judge the performance based on that. He was getting lit up in the first round. And I think if you do that against a guy in Nassourdine Imavov with a bunch of quick finishes, and against a guy like Jonathan Munier, who was in his prime at the time, 9-1, if he won that fight against Imavov, he probably would have been signed to the UFC as well. Not to mention that Nassourdine Imavov, this is not a short notice fight for him. Jordan Williams had a short notice fight put together with Nassourdine Imavov not too long ago. Both of them technically are taking this on short notice. However, something that the odds makers, again, I feel like are missing out on is that Nassourdine Imavov was already scheduled to fight in the UFC. They knew as soon as he beat Jonathan Munier in the first round by TKO, this guy's fighting in the UFC. They gave him a fight in September 15 against Gregory Rodriguez. And that fight ended up getting cancelled. Jordan Williams versus him now been scrapped. Nassourdine Imavov has had a little bit of a longer camp. He's moving up. He's fought at welterweight before, but then again, Jordan Williams is not really a huge middleweight either. His last weigh-in was at 181 pounds. I feel as though Nassourdine Imavov is going to get the job done. I've actually found out something here. I've found out some interesting things. Nassourdine Imavov was supposed to be on the Contender Series, not Jordan Griffin. Nassourdine Imavov was supposed to be taking on Gregory Rodriguez on the Contender Series. He pulled out. Jordan Williams fought Rodriguez on the Contender Series. Imavov was still healthy, so he must have came down with the Rona syndrome if he didn't have to delay the overall fight by too long. Now he's still got a full camp, but Jordan Williams basically took his fight on the Contender Series. They ended up giving both of them a contract. I'm down. That sounds good to me. But still, Nassourdine Imavov, absolute savage, great fighter. He has an aura that he's going to be good. And also his early losses in his career, you could look at those two losses. I don't take too much badly from them. The same way in Jordan Williams lost to Kuragomedov, who's an absolute savage. I don't really blame him for that too much whatsoever. But you look at Nassourdine Imavov's, his first fight, he was supposed to be taking on a guy who was 1-2 at the time in Sergiu Berdila. That got cancelled. Another fight got cancelled on that same card in the main event or co-main event, up the card massively. And Nassourdine Imavov stepped in on a day or two's notice or whatever to step in and fill in for the main event fight or the co-main event fight on that card against Ayadi Majdenin, who was 7-2 at the time in his debut. And fair enough, he lost. He got guillotined. But you don't take on guys who are 7-2 in your debut. That's just not how it works. But since then, he's evolved. He's had a loss as well against another good opponent who was 5-2 at the time. Not the best to see, but still, he's moved on. He's beaten good opponents, 12-4, 9-1, 2 out of his last 3 wins with that kind of record. I like it. I think he'll go out there and get the upset against Jordan Williams. But pay attention this weekend to Jordan Williams as well, because he's also a savage. So Carlos Condit, pay attention, because if he wins, he could be moving on to do some interesting things throughout the next part of his career. Then you've got Jordan Williams, Nassourdine Imavov, 2 more guys to watch out for, and Dusko Todorovic is the icing on the cake, undefeated guy coming in. I think he'll beat Daquan Townsend pretty handily in the first round, so pay attention, like and subscribe, click that button there, and goodbye. This card is not good this weekend, but, you know, when the card is shit, fights tend to be fucking amazing. So, tune in. See you later.